Robson again getting it back from Stapleton. He's on his way.
Football is the nation's sport here in Britain. The first modern set of rules were established in London in 1863. England is also home to the world's oldest club and the oldest governing body, the FA. There's over 40,000 association football clubs, around 5,000 professional players. Yet shockingly, there's only been one openly gay player in the history of UK professional football. Society here in the UK has seemingly moved on with accepting homosexuality. However, why is it still such a taboo subject in the world of football?
It's one thing to challenge the homophobic abuse that may emanate from supporters within stadia on a weekly basis. I don't believe that the clubs primarily are doing enough to address the mental well-being of their players who are gay or bisexual. I've actually been in touch with a Premier League footballer who is gay. Now, I don't know who he is, but we have communicated online, and he certainly feels that his club, the PFA and other stakeholders within the game do nowhere near enough to empower him, for example, to feel confident enough about being open about his sexuality. The one thing that does set football apart in comparison to a factory or an office is that in the aftermath of training each day, you will have footballers in various states of undress as they go in and out of showers and baths, etc. And some footballers may have potential issues around the idea of getting changed and unchanged in front of a gay or bisexual colleague. But I do believe that if there is the will, then issues like that can be overcome.
1.6% of people in the UK identify as gay or bisexual. If the statistics are correct, there should be at least 80 professional footballers who are gay. Those who hide their sexuality could face problems on the pitch and in the dressing room.
Joined a straight team with a bunch of friends who were close friends. They were all straight lads, but they were all, it was a close group of friends. I asked them to keep it quiet, and I let my footballing ability show, and I didn't tell anyone in the team that I was gay. I was playing every week, and unfortunately one of my mates let it slip. Obviously I was gay. It got around the changing room, and then a couple of weeks later I was suddenly just dropped from the team. Well, I was actually moved out of position to a position that no one wanted to play, and then a couple of weeks after that I got dropped, and then dropped out the team on the bench, and then a week after that I was out the squad completely. And it's just a bit of a coincidence that all of a sudden I was out playing every week, a favourite in the team, and then all of a sudden I come out, they find out I was gay, and then I get dropped, and sniggers go around the changing room, don't let him look at you, and he's staring at you and stuff in the shower, and it just wasn't a pleasant experience. So that kind of put me out of football.
Kick It Out works to tackle these types of discrimination in football.
A lot of people say there are lots of footballers who are openly gay in the dressing rooms at their clubs, and the players are comfortable with it. But what they're worried is, if they're having a bad game, that the fans might turn them if they're openly gay and use that form of abuse. I've mentioned people being openly gay in football clubs and dressing rooms, but there's still that attitude that maybe they don't want to come out to their peers. So that's those two sides of that as well. But I think until football does more to actively support this occurring, there's going to be a lack of support. A lot of people who have revealed that they're gay in their retirement, they're good role models, we need more of them, but because they've come into retirement, it's a lot more difficult, because we've only had one player who's in this country who has been openly gay, and that was Justin Fashanu.
The UK is home to a gay-friendly league welcoming all players, whatever their sexuality.
The GFSM, which is the Gay Football Supporters Network, formed a league. And it's a national league. It's the only amateur national league in the country. In fact, it's the only amateur gay league in the world. Football's about looking for weaknesses. It's about looking to get one up on somebody else. Football fans look for any weakness, and unfortunately it's perceived as a weakness.
But it's not all fans that are hurling homophobic abuse, and many clubs now have LGBT fan groups. So why is there still this culture surrounding football?
Football's a macho sport. I think the main thing what's shocking between the men's and the women's football is that, out of the 92 clubs, there's not a single player who's come out as homosexual whilst playing. Where women's football, it's not a problem. One thing what we really want to do as LGBT magpies is tell people that there is such thing as Kick It Out, where if you do text a number or go on an app, then within 10-15 minutes you are going to have a safety officer or someone come over. When you go to Brighton, there's the big chant, "Does your boyfriend know you're here?" I think that's acceptable. It's not really the worst thing in the world. especially when you've got somebody down there with a boyfriend holding hands saying, yeah, he's sat next to me, or he's at home because he hates football. Opposites attract. So certain things are acceptable, but I think it's just kind of finding the line really, and make sure that it isn't crossed.
There seems to be a difference in the acceptance of being gay between men's and women's football, and first-hand experience says football has actually helped with coming out.
I myself haven't received any homophobia in the game at all. Personally, I find it a lot easier to come out as gay within a football community because, one, so many of my other teammates were, so it made it a lot easier, but I just think it's more openly accepted within the women's game, especially within women's teams. The FA are trying, but because obviously there aren't many people that have come out as gay, they've not really got a platform to kind of promote it on, if that makes sense. I think the FA could do a lot more in terms of, they've run racism campaigns, but they haven't really run as many gay and homophobic campaigns, especially in the men's game.
Men's football has more of a stigma attached to being gay in comparison to women's football.
I think it's the stereotype. I think football is quite very masculine. But I think for women, I think as soon as you say you play football, people automatically think that football for women is kind of a gay sport, whereas for men it's more masculine. So I think that's probably why it's more accepted for us than it is.
Yeah, that is more of a status for men to be this macho type, look after a girl kind of thing. And also I think men in the changing rooms are a bit more nervous about other people looking at them, whereas we just get on with it.
I think if someone's to come out in men's football, for even the crowd, because of obviously the media they get, it will be straight away in the media. Whereas for women, it's kind of just, in a way, it's expected that as if you play football, you're gay. In the male environment now in football, I definitely want to come out myself. I think they are going to get a lot more criticism, a lot more hassle. More so, not necessarily the teammates, maybe from the crowds and support, and so I do think it is much more harder. I wouldn't, if I was a male footballer, I wouldn't want to come out as it is now.
No, me neither, because there are a lot of narrow-minded people in football, and obviously men get more support, so there'll be more supporters to chant rubbish about that.
Not everyone agrees that there's much of a difference between the men's and women's game.
Is it accepted? I don't think it is. Andy Worrell, one of our patrons, is a Welsh international playing for Manchester City Ladies. She was at the time the only senior international player playing at the top level in this country who was still playing, who was out. A few months after Andy came out, then Casey Stoney came out. It's more accepted within the women's game. Yes, it might be at close quarters with teammates and with coaches and managers, but again, a lot of the women that are out there that are playing at the top elite level in this country and internationally are still not out.
So why are these prejudices still so rife within the footballing world?
I think discrimination in all its forms is a problem in professional football and indeed in amateur football. I think it's across the game. You only have to go to stadiums to hear some of the chants, and while we've done a lot of really good work in terms of reducing the amount of racism, I think homophobia needs to get to a similar level at some point fairly soon. So there seems to be general acceptance of chants like does your boyfriend know you're here, we can see you holding hands, and that kind of thing, which actually when you're a gay man that's sat in the crowd, although it's not directed at you personally, it's still kind of sort of sending out that message that people like you are not welcome here. I still think that a player in the elite level of the game would be crazy to come out, because it's now a global sport. You never know where your next contract's going to be, so if you're a Premier League footballer, your next contract might be at Zenit St Petersburg, or in countries where actually homophobia is a real problem, much more so than it is here in the UK. So you never know where you're going to be playing, and once you're out, you're out. And if you've got any kind of aspirations to play international football, when you consider the next two World Cups are in Russia in 2018, whose anti-gay laws are obviously well publicised, and Qatar in 2022, where it's actually illegal to be gay.
25 years ago, Justin Fashanu came out as an openly gay footballer. At the time, homophobia was a real problem within society, so perhaps now it's time for the game to review itself, not just in the UK, but worldwide.
The former footballer Justin Fashanu has been found dead in a garage in East London. It's understood Fashanu, who was 37, died from strangulation, although the results of a post-mortem examination...